A crowd sits on the limestone slope of a Galilean hillside. The midday sun beats down on their necks. The wind comes off the water below. Over and over again on that hillside, he uses a phrase that would have made a Pharisee tear his robes. You have heard that it was said, "Your sins are sent away," or "Get up and walk." It is easy to claim you can forgive sins because no one can see it happen. So he provides the physical proof of the unseen reality. He turns back to the mat. Rise. Pick up your bed. Go home. The muscles reattach. The bones lock into place. The man stands. The crowd parts. The man walks out the door carrying his bed into the blinding sun. Jesus proves he has the unseen authority to forgive by demonstrating the visible authority to heal. But the religious experts still do not grasp the mechanics of what they just saw. To find someone who actually understands how this chain of command works, you have to look outside the covenant to a man wearing the armor of Rome. The religious experts in Jerusalem spend their entire lives studying the prophets, yet they completely misread the mechanics of the carpenter's power. It takes an outsider, a man who enforces the brutal occupation of Judea, to explain how Exousia actually works. A Roman centurion commands a century, roughly 80 men. He wears a crested helmet and heavy, iron-studded sandals. His life is defined by the rigid, unflinching hierarchy of the Roman legion. In Matthew chapter 8, this commander approaches Jesus to the people long ago. But I say to you, he edits Moses. Most people assume authority is about volume, or a title, or the ability, because his servant is paralyzed at home, suffering terribly. Jesus offers to come to his house and heal him, but the centurion stops him. He says something that makes Jesus marvel. The only time in the entire gospel record where Jesus is explicitly astonished by a human's faith. The centurion says, "Lord, I am not worthy to have you come under my roof, but only say the word, and my servant will be healed." And then he explains why. "For I too am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. And I say to one, 'Go,' and he goes, and to another, 'Come,' and he comes." Look closely at the grammar of his explanation. He does not say, "I am a man in authority." He says, "I am a man under authority." The Roman Empire stretches from the foggy forests of Britannia to the burning sands of Egypt. It is held together entirely by the chain of command. When this centurion gives an order in Capernaum, the soldier obeys, not because the centurion is physically stronger, but because standing right behind the centurion is a general, and standing behind the general is the Senate. And standing behind the Senate is the Emperor of Rome. The power is not in the centurion's muscles. It is in the unseen weight of the empire backing his word. The centurion looks at this dusty Jewish rabbi and recognizes the exact same structure to enforce compliance with a sword. We read the word authority in our English Bibles and picture a general barking orders, or a Roman governor, but he realizes the chain goes infinitely higher. He understands that sickness is merely a subordinate. Disease is just a foot soldier in the cosmic hierarchy. The centurion knows that if Jesus commands the physical realm, he does not need to walk to the house. He does not need to lay hands on the sick man. Distance does not dilute a decree when the decree originates from the uncreated substance of God. Faith is not a blind leap into the dark. It is the accurate recognition of who is actually in command. Jesus speaks the word, and miles away, in that exact moment, the servant's nervous system fires. The paralysis breaks. The sickness obeys the chain of command without hesitation. The centurion understands how this authority operates over a single household in Galilee. But 3 years later, after the carpenter walks out of a borrowed tomb, this localized authority is going to undergo a massive, permanent expansion. The air is thin on the mountain in Galilee. 11 men wait in the dust. Their sandals are worn from the road. Their minds are still trying to process the impossibility of the last 40 days, the brutal execution. The stone rolled away, the physical reality of the scars on his wrists. Matthew records a heartbreaking, honest detail about this final gathering. signing a decree. We assume power is something you are granted, something you can lose if people stop listening to you. But if you look closer, he notes that, when they see him, they worship him. But some doubt. They are still fragile. They are still afraid of the Romans. The carpenter steps forward. He does not point to a prophecy to comfort them. He does not outline a defensive survival strategy for the coming persecution. He speaks a single sentence that permanently redefines the architecture of the cosmos. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. The Greek text uses the exact same word the crowds whispered 3 years earlier on the Mount of Beatitudes. Exousia. But now, the borders have been removed. Before the cross, his exousia was demonstrated in localized bursts. A storm on a single lake, a demon in a single synagogue, a paralyzed man in a single house. But the resurrection changes the scale. The grave was the final, ultimate rebellion against the Creator's design, and the carpenter has just shattered its teeth from the inside out. He holds the keys to the storm. He holds the leash to the dark. He holds the ledger to every human debt. Heaven and earth are no longer divided jurisdictions, fractured by rebellion and run by rival powers. They are a single, unified kingdom, and the crown rests entirely on a Jewish carpenter with pierced hands. He possesses absolute, unborrowed sovereignty over the seen and the unseen world. And then he does something absolutely terrifying. He shares it, at the word Matthew actually uses, at the exact way this carpenter interacts with storms, with shattered bodies. With unseen darkness, you start to see something. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations. The Great Commission is not a church growth strategy. It is the inauguration of a new world order. He is not asking them to start a religion. He is commissioning an embassy. He takes the Exousia that silenced the sea, the Exousia that sent the legion running into the pigs, the Exousia that canceled the paralytic's debt, and he places it into the trembling hands of 11 fishermen and tax collectors. He extends his own substance into his people. And behold, I am with you always, to the end of the age. Not as a fading memory, not as a distant theological concept, as the active, pulsing substance behind their every step. The centurion's secret now applies to them. When they walk into the Roman world, they are men and women under authority. The chain of command holds. But 2,000 years later, the modern mind has lost the ability to see it. We live as though the throne is empty. And because we have forgotten who actually holds the leash to the world, we are being crushed by a completely different kind of weight. We are a species exhausted by phantom thrones. We track the markets. We doom scroll the news. We lie awake. The blue light of a screen illuminates tired eyes at 2 in the morning. A heart hammers violently against the ribs. The modern definition completely misses. This is not a man trying to convince a crowd to follow him. His authority is not a badge he wears. The phone buzzes on the nightstand with another alert. We feel the heavy, suffocating weight of an unpredictable future pressing down on our chests. We look at the world and assume chaos is running the board. We live as if the economy has exousia. We live as if a political party has exousia. We live as if a medical diagnosis has the absolute final word. We treat the physical and spiritual forces around us as if they are sovereign because we cannot see the carpenter. We assume the storm is unmuzzled. We assume the wind is in charge. So we try to become our own authority. We buy more locks. We stockpile money. We build higher walls. We try to control our environments, to our families, our schedules, hoping we can manufacture a little bit of peace with our bare hands. We treat Jesus as a consultant. We ask for his advice on our lives, but we reserve the final veto power for ourselves. We give him the title of Lord, but we refuse to recognize his true substance. But a consultant cannot calm a storm. A life coach cannot evict a legion. Only a sovereign can do that. Anxiety is not a random psychological glitch. It is the belief that the throne is empty. It is the terrifying assumption that we are in the boat alone. It is the substance of who he is. The crowds feel it first. Then the demons will recognize it. Then the wind and the waves. And no one is holding the leash to the dark. But the disciples did not survive the Sea of Galilee because they were good sailors. They survived because of the unborrowed substance of the man sleeping on the leather cushion. The Roman centurion did not find healing because he worked hard enough. He found it because he accurately recognized the unseen chain of command. The paralyzed man did not walk because the scribes approved his theology. He walked because the Creator cleared his ledger. The reality of who holds the authority does not change just because we are looking at the waves. The carpenter is not pacing the floor of heaven in a panic over your tomorrow. He is not frantically trying to figure out how to handle the diagnosis, the financial collapse, or the broken relationship. He is exactly where he has always been. And knowing where he sits changes absolutely everything about how you step into whatever is waiting for you. He sat on a hillside without quoting a single dead scholar, and a crowd felt the tectonic plates of their religion shift. He woke up in the stern of a sinking boat, and the boiling sea was muzzled into absolute glass. He walked into a synagogue with a legion of darkness, and the unseen hierarchy begged him for terms. We'll bow to it. Then the Roman Empire will try to nail it to wood. Same terrifying wait, again and again, to find out. He bypassed the shattered legs of a paralyzed man and canceled a debt only the Creator could clear. He received a request from a Roman commander miles away, and the physical world obeyed the unseen chain of command. He walked out of a borrowed grave with breath in his lungs, and the ultimate rebellion was shattered from the inside out. He stood on a mountain with 11 doubting fishermen and placed the sovereignty of heaven into their trembling hands. Same Exousia, same king. But maybe the part that stays with me most is the cushion. The leather cushion in the stern of the fishing boat. The storm is tearing the wood apart. The seasoned sailors are bleeding and terrified. And the carpenter is asleep. He is not sleeping because he is absent. He is sleeping because he is sovereign. His internal substance is completely undisturbed by the chaos of the world, because he knows exactly who holds the leash to the dark. If you are in a season where your boat is splintering, where a medical diagnosis, a financial collapse, or an unpredictable future feels like a storm, you cannot survive. You do not have to manufacture your own peace. You do not have to be the authority. What kind of power doesn't need to shout to be obeyed? The place to start is not his actions. The place to start is, the wind does not have the final word. The disease does not hold the ledger. The chaos is not running the board. If this reached something in you today, subscribe. Leave a comment, even one word helps. Share this with someone who is staring down a storm right now. Pray for us as we keep digging into these texts. And may the God who has never once lost control of the sea walk with you, through yours, and remind you that you are held by an authority the grave itself could not break. The very word that crowd whispers to each other as they walk back down the mountain, carrying the faint smell of dried nets and warm dust. A man from Nazareth finishes speaking. He sits down. The silence that follows is not. The English language gives us the word authority. We hear it and think of a uniform. We think of a gavel hitting a heavy wooden block in a courtroom. We think of a brass badge pinned to a chest. We think of external symbols, borrowed power. But the word the Greek text uses to describe the carpenter is Exousia. Ex meaning out of, ousia meaning being, substance or essence, out of his own substance. It is a word that changes everything about how you read the next 3 years of his life. The Greek language has another word for power, dunamis. Dunamis is raw, explosive force. A hurricane has dunamis. A runaway Roman chariot has dunamis. But exousia is different. It is the absolute right to act. The freedom to command, generated entirely from within. A Roman centurion has exousia only because Caesar stamped a red wax seal on a piece of parchment. If Caesar burns the parchment, the centurion is just a man in metal armor. His power is delegated. Jesus' power is not delegated. It is not a title. It is his nature. In ancient Greek philosophy, ousia is the truest, most irreducible part of a thing. It is the heat of a fire. It is the wetness of water, the polite quiet of a synagogue gathering. It is the heavy, breathless pause of a people who have just felt the tectonic plates of their religion shift. So when the gospel writers say he teaches with exousia, they are making a staggering claim. They are saying his commands flow out of his uncreated essence. He doesn't need a sword. He doesn't need an army. He doesn't need the high priest's permission. He speaks from the same substance that spoke light into a black void. This is not an authority he earned by climbing a religious ladder. It is the authority of the author over the book. You see this explicitly in Matthew chapter 10. He turns to 12 ordinary men whose hands still smell like raw fish and copper tax coins, and the text says he gave them exousia over unclean spirits. He hands them a piece of his own substance. He delegates what originates in him. Most people read the Gospels and assume his miracles are magic tricks designed to prove he is God. They assume Jesus is putting on a show to gather a following. But they are not performances. They are the natural friction of exousia meeting a broken world. When a pathogen meets a white blood cell, the pathogen is destroyed. When chaos meets exousia, chaos submits. It has no other choice. It is a matter of physics, not persuasion. And the physical world is about to find this out. Matthew records the moment at the end of chapter 7. He notes that the crowds are absolutely astonished at his teaching. Not because he was eloquent. The Sea of Galilee sits in a geographical basin. When cold air from the surrounding mountains drops and hits the warm air rising off the water, the lake turns violent without warning. Water crashes over the wooden sides of the fishing boat. The sky goes black. It is a bowl of cold wind and churning foam. Seasoned fishermen, men who have read these waters since they were boys, are bailing water with bleeding knuckles. Their tunics soaked through and heavy. The boat is splintering. It is sinking. And in the stern, the carpenter is asleep. His head rests on a leather cushion. The wood groans beneath him. The cold salt spray hits his face. He does not stir. The chaos of the world is raging around him. But his internal exousia remains completely undisturbed. They grab his shoulders. They shake him awake. They scream over the deafening wind. "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He opens his eyes. He looks at the panicked men. He looks at the black water. He does not panic. He does not grab a bucket to help them bail. He does not even fall to his knees to beg God for rescue. He simply stands up. He speaks to the wind. He speaks to the boiling sea. The English translation of Mark's Gospel says he rebuked the wind, not because he told good stories. They are shocked because he taught them as one having authority, and not as their scribes. But the Greek verb is epitimao. It carries the weight of a legal assessment. It means to assign due measure, to assess a penalty, to put a thing firmly back into its proper, restricted place. The storm is not a random weather event threatening his life. It is a created thing, overstepping its bounds. He speaks into the dark. Siopa, pefimoso, peace. Be still. Literally, be silent. Be muzzled. He assigns the wind its measure and the air goes dead. He assigns the waves their boundary and the sea becomes a mirror of absolute glass. The foam flattens. The howling vanishes. The sudden, suffocating silence that falls over the boat is heavier than the water they just bailed out. The fishermen drop their buckets. They look at the flat water. Then they look at the man holding the leash. Mark records their exact response. They do not cheer. They do not breathe a sigh of relief. The text says they are filled with great fear. And they say to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" A scribe points to the scroll. A prophet begs heaven for a miracle. A king orders his men to build a wall against the sea. But only the Creator looks at the chaos of the deep and tells it to sit down. To understand the weight of that reaction, you have to step into the first-century religious world. The scribes are the gatekeepers. They are the men. The disciples are terrified because they suddenly realize the physical elements of the earth know exactly who this man is. But the wind and the waves are not the only things that recognize his face in the dark. We often imagine the unseen world as a battleground of equals. We picture a cosmic arm wrestling match between light and dark, a struggle where the outcome hangs in the balance and territory is won by inches. But when you track this carpenter through the four Gospels, you realize something shocking about his encounters with the demonic. There is no struggle. There is no sweat. In the first century, Jewish and pagan exorcists traveled the Palestinian countryside. When they encountered a demoniac, the process was theatrical and desperate. They burned bitter roots. They recited long, complex incantations. Josephus, the Jewish historian, records exorcists placing special rings under a possessed person's nose to literally smoke the dark spirit out. It was a frantic, exhausting wrestling match for control, relying entirely on the borrowed power of magic words and rituals. Jesus does none of this. When a man possessed by a legion of demons, a man who snaps iron shackles with his bare hands, howling in the tombs at night and cutting his own flesh with jagged stones, sees Jesus from afar. He does not charge at him to fight, who unroll heavy, expensive parchment scrolls. When a scribe teaches, his entire method relies on borrowed weight. He quotes Rabbi Hillel, who quotes Rabbi Shammai. He runs and falls on his face in the dirt. The demons are not attacking him. They are pleading with him. If seeing these ancient texts stripped of their religious polish makes you feel like you are reading them for the first time, you're exactly who this channel is for. Drop a thought in the comments and hit subscribe, because every week we go deeper into the text than you knew was possible. So the dark begs for terms. They scream from the stone floor of the Capernaum synagogue, "What have you to do with us? Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." They recognize his Exousia instantly. Long before the Pharisees figure it out, long before the 12 disciples can articulate what is sitting in their boat, the unseen world knows exactly who just walked into the room. Because spiritual entities operate in a strict hierarchy of power, they understand authority, and when they look at this dusty rabbi from Nazareth, they do not see a human teacher quoting Rabbi Hillel. They see the uncreated substance of the Ancient of Days. He does not chant. He does not burn incense. He uses a single word, who traces the thought back to Moses. A scribe's power is entirely derived. He is a middleman. He points to the text and says, "Go," and they flee. This is not a negotiation. It is an eviction. He commands the unseen world with the exact same internal, unborrowed exousia he used on the boiling sea. When he speaks, the hierarchy of the universe snaps into violent alignment. But stopping a storm and silencing a demon are still external acts. They deal with the physical environment and the spiritual environment. They fix what is broken on the outside, to show the true, terrifying depths of his authority. He has to do something worse. He has to touch the one thing the religious elite believe belongs exclusively to the throne room of heaven. The house in Capernaum is packed. Bodies press against the mud brick walls. The air is thick with breath and sweat. Scribes sit in the front rows. Their faces are hard. Their arms are crossed. They are watching his every move, waiting for a mistake. Then, a scratching sound from above. Dust falls on the shoulders of the religious elite. Chunks of dried clay and straw hit the stone floor. A shaft of blinding sunlight breaks through the ceiling. The hole widens. Ropes lower a heavy mat. A paralyzed man lands right at the carpenter's feet. The room goes dead silent. They expect a healing. They expect him to touch the shattered legs. But the carpenter bypasses the legs. He aims for the soul. He looks at the paralyzed man and says, "This is what the tradition demands." But this carpenter does not borrow weight. He does not quote dead scholars. He does not point to a commentary. "Son, your sins are forgiven." The scribes freeze. They know exactly what just happened. The word Jesus uses in Mark chapter 2 is the Greek aphiemi. It means to hurl away. It means to let go completely. It is the exact word a first-century judge uses to dismiss a criminal. It is the word a king uses to cancel a crushing financial debt, and he uses it entirely on his own authority. He does not pray for the man's forgiveness. He does not instruct the man to carry a lamb to the temple priests in Jerusalem. He simply speaks it, out of his own exousia. The religious elite tear their robes in their minds. They ask the only logical question, who can forgive sins but God alone? And they are absolutely right. If a man steals from your neighbor, and you step in and say, I forgive you, you are a lunatic. You cannot forgive a debt you are not owed. You can only forgive a crime if the crime was committed against you. By speaking aphiemi over this man, Jesus is making the ultimate, scandalous claim. Every sin this paralyzed man has ever committed against his family, against his neighbors, against the law was ultimately a crime committed against the carpenter sitting in front of him. This is not a rabbi offering spiritual comfort. It is the offended creator clearing his own ledger. He looks at the scribes. He reads their silent outrage. He asks them which is easier to say,